Let's see what the famous Jesse Lee Peterson is talking
in
about
the
here.
regrettable experience of slavery.
You used to be enslaved?
Yes, we used to be slaves.
You were a slave at one time?
No, I was not. I know.
I would say the trauma caused by the George Floyd
I
situation.
have grandchildren.
traumatized by
Okay.
Absolutely.
How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
And you were traumatized by George Floyd?
Trump
For sure.
or Elon, brother, or
Do
neither?
you not? Well, I know you're not a psychologist.
It's a trend?
You grown or you a
What?
baby?
What's going on, everybody?
It's a
Welcome back to
trend
the
that
show. Hope all
Elon
is good
created.
wherever
What?
you are in this video. We're going to watch
Never
our boy,
fucking heard
Jesse
of it.
Lee Peterson absolutely annihilate a couple of race baiters.
Say
with facts,
crack my
logic,
fingers
and of course,
backwards?
his
Backwards?
well-known
The
Jesse
what?
Lee
Why?
Peterson humor. Let's get into it.
You are an expert in African American religious thought and history, right?
You know, I'm trying to be. Let me say I'm trying to be.
What
Now,
is that?
Huh?
What is
Fuck
that?
the trends.
African-American
I
religious
don't-
history.
Yeah,
You guys are out of your
African
fucking weird
American
mind.
religious thoughts and history. What is that?
Well, it's a study. It's a study of our heritage, our religious heritage, even
Wait, what?
beginning with our current religious stance and dispositions, but tracing it back through
Wait,
history.
what? Why are
we
you
try
bringing
to
religion
discover
into this?
Our roots for the particular understandings of God, Christ, and the Bible that we bring in our current religious experience.
Is African American religious thought different from Caucasian religious thought?
Oh yes, very definitely.
In
yes.
what
I
way?
hear about
Well,
crack my
for one
finger
thing,
challenge.
Our religious heritage is rooted.
It's impossible to say.
regrettable
What are you
experience of
even
slavery.
talking about?
You used to be enslaved?
Yes, we used to be slaves.
You were a slave at one time?
No, I was not. I know. I was never. I was,
Why
I was
would I
born-
want to
I
say
was
vinegar?
born
Because it
in
was
the
created by
1950s,
Kamala's.
so
It's on.
So slavery was long gone.
Right.
by then. But I
X?
still experience
I'm sorry. What are
the
you
legacy
fucking
of
talking?
slavery,
How?
the
In what way?
legacy of
Are
discrimination.
you,
what way?
I think you guys are reading too
When
much
I
into the
experienced barriers
dentage
that
or
exist
dunce cap
simply
people on
because of the
X.
color of my skin. Those barriers are still real, and they still exist.
So how did you get to APU and do all that, be the dean and do all that if Barry was in your way?
Yeah, that's
Embarrassing.
amazing, isn't it? That's a miracle.
Wait.
That's a miracle.
Is it possible because they were not there? At least not from the white folks.
That who was not there?
Barriers were not there. It was all in your mind.
Oh no, the barriers were there. The barriers are there even now. Even though I
Damn,
am
Jesse Lee
associate
Peterson is
dean and
fucking.
professor
Oh,
of
she's
New
fighting him.
Testament, there's still some real barriers
That's insane.
that you deal with.
When will black people know that they are not there anymore? What do white people have to do to say, okay, blacks, we done gave. We
All
gave
right,
y'all
you need to.
everything.
I'm
Do
just
you
gonna
want the
fucking.
land? You want the land, then you'll be
You're,
done.
you're just getting timed out,
we'll
dude.
know that these barriers
Calm
are
down.
no longer
With the
there
whole thing.
when we finally
We get it. We
become
get it. You want
fully
people
human.
to say
you
the
gonna do
racist
that by
words,
taking
okay? We get it.
lives?
We
But
you
the
want
eyes
people
in
to
the eyes
slay
of
slurs.
white
We get it.
So if white
Calm
people
down.
just say to the black, y'all human,
Just take a chill pill
Would you
for
be
like 10
satisfied?
minutes.
No, it takes more than that. It takes more than that.
what else you want?
For one thing, it takes getting
You
the
believe
focus
we're
on
in the
our necks.
Matrix? What?
do you
You
mean
mean
by
like
that?
simulation theory? Yeah, sure.
What
Why
I
not?
mean by that is the end of things.
I mean, with
like,
all of our politicians, the way they're
racialized
acting, yeah,
police
sure. Why not?
brutality. When those kind of things disappear, when a young woman can be sitting in her house and not worry about police officers busting the door down
Who that?
and
Who
shooting
that?
her to death.
Who are you referring to?
Breonna Taylor.
Oh, that Taylor girl. Did you know she was dealing with drug
George
dealers?
Floyd.
And
It doesn't matter what
And did
people
you
say
know
she was
that
dealing.
she was-
It doesn't matter
it
what
doesn't
she
matter.
what she was
Look,
dealing
you
with.
could have
Just
brought up the.
Nobody-
This dude could have easily brought up the ones where there was actually instances where they did hit up the wrong house, and right, but no, he brought up the one case where it was the person dealing with drug addicts and shit. Oh god. Oh no.
a murder or something
Nobody
took
is
place?
going to walk into the house of a white woman and shoot her dead.
They didn't do that.
They didn't do what?
There was an actual case where there was a SWAT team that went into the wrong house or tried to go into the wrong house, and they shot up a couple on accident because the boyfriend fired back.
They knocked before they
Yeah.
went in. The
I
boyfriend
forgot
or
what case that
maybe
was.
even
That
her
was
shot at the
like
cop.
4 years
They
ago or
just
some
walked
shit.
in.
2
No,
years
they
ago.
busted the door down.
No, but they didn't just walk. It
came
was
in.
a knock, and then they went
They
in.
did not identify themselves as police
not true.
officers. The young man
No,
thought
that's
that some
not
other
true.
group was breaking in. He shot in
You
self-defense.
mean the drug dealer?
They returned fire,
When you
and
say
they
young
killed
man-
an innocent woman.
When you said a young man, are you referring to the drug dealer that you were with?
Your name is
I'm
Osama.
referring to her boyfriend.
The
I
drug
don't
dealer.
know anything about his background. All I know is that there's no justification for this string of killings of black men and black women for no reason.
Even if they're drug dealers, pushing drugs, criminals, and all that,
Well,
they don't bring that up on
okay,
themselves.
okay.
As a preacher, hold on. Do they bring that on
What
themselves?
what
by
are
the
we
way they
talking
live?
about?
Well, white people seem to escape
That's
that.
not what I'm asking you.
You know, and
Do
they
they
and
bring that
there
upon
are
themselves?
white drug dealers, there are white gang members,
Do they
but
bring
yet
it-
you don't hear of killing after
Does anyone
killing
want to trade
after
or telegram
killing
or
of unarmed
kick? What the-
unarmed black men
That's not
and
true.
black women.
I'm not Osama
It
bin
is
Laden.
true.
I didn't say
I mean,
that,
that's-
but
that is the
nice
problem.
way to
That's what all the
self-report.
protests
But let me
are
ask-
about. The
let me ask.
protests are not about police engagement with criminals.
As a
The
preacher, I got to
protests-
ask you this.
Okay.
As a preacher, called by God, sitting in the room, reading the word. when
It
God
seems
calls
like they just go
As a
in back and
preacher.
forth. The fuck?
Doesn't matter their lifestyle. Can they possibly bring this upon themselves by the way they live?
Lifestyle does not bring murder upon someone.
If you're a drug dealer or you're involved in drug dealing and you're doing criminal things, can you bring that upon yourself?
A lifestyle can
You
lead
said
to
Osama,
consequences.
So is it
bitch
possible
ass,
to
how
just tell a woman
lonely
and
at
women of
I'm getting get
Florida,
on
whatever they
yo
were,
at. I
brought them on
mean, just
themselves
because
based
your
on
name
their
is
lifestyle?
Osama doesn't
Is
mean
that
you're.
possible?
No, not under these circumstances. It was
Man.
racism that brought
Yeah, you need
that,
some
that,
work.
that consequence upon her.
Sounds like you need to go
Racism.
back to
Do you
like
believe
school
that
or
white
something,
people
dude.
discriminate against blacks?
Yes.
Do you discriminate?
No.
You never discriminate.
No.
You don't discriminate.
I don't discriminate against anyone on the basis of race.
Do you
I have
discriminate?
been discriminated
Yeah,
against.
did
on the
you
basis
did you
of
did
race.
you
So
drop
you
out
do
of school or
discriminate.
something? Is that why you're so
Everybody
upset?
discriminates.
How about you?
For example,
How about
I
you?
prefer to eat
What's
chicken
wrong with you?
rather than pork. That's discrimination.
Do you discriminate?
Not on the basis of race.
Do you discriminate against other people?
Not on
So
on the basis of racial characteristics. That's what we're
So
talking
why
about.
did you marry a black woman instead of a white woman?
Because I fell in love with her.
But why do you fall in love with a white woman?
You know, you're the
discriminate.
only one
No,
who's saying
I
a
fell
bunch
in
of
love-
shit
I fell
right
in
now,
love
right?
with
You
my
dated a
wife.
white woman before, right?
No,
I'm not
I
even
never
saying
dated
anything. You're the
my
one
wife.
fucking wigging out, dude. You need to
That
relax.
situation just never arose.
Maybe you should, you
I fell
know,
in love with
take a
somebody
chill pill or
Is
something.
being a white Christian different from being a black Christian?
Yes.
In what way?
Heritage.
What?
Heritage and experience.
And what do you mean by that?
Black people, even black Christians, have experienced a racial heritage and history in this country that white people have not experienced. In fact,
What? Are you saying white people didn't get religion? What the fuck? Wait, what?
white people have been responsible for have experienced a racial heritage and history in this country that white people have not experienced. In fact, white people have been responsible for black
What is he talk? What?
What
people
does that have to do?
experiencing
What
this
does that have to
history and
do with
heritage.
being born of
Oh,
God?
yo, why are you guys?
It has
Oh
nothing
my God!
to
Here
do
you
with
go.
being born of
Okay,
God, but
look.
Black people who are Christians. Are
I'm sorry. I'm
born
just
of
gonna
God
have to
also,
ban you.
but
You guys
yet,
keep doing the
despite
fucking
fact
same
that they were
shit over and
Christian
over
and
again.
born of God, they have been treated as subhumans.
I agree with you that the Arab did treat them that way because
Get the
black
fuck
that
outta
sold-
here.
No,
it was
All
the
of you
blacks
get
that
banned.
sold the Arabs.
I'm
keep
talking about racial
spamming
history
the
in
same
Americas.
shit.
It was the blacks that sold the Arab. I mean, it was the blacks that sold other blacks to the Arabs over in Africa, Mummy Africa, and then they went
Fucking
and
children,
the Arabs
man.
sold the blacks around the world. I do agree with that. So they were treated cruelly.
Hey, this is
for
why I
that
don't
reason.
like fucking
you're
certain
blaming the
people from
victim.
certain communities. Holy
How the
fucking
Arabs are
shit!
legacy-
It's just a
legacy
constant
of-
The
shit
Arabs that
show.
sold- that bought them,
I
or the
gotta
blacks that
fucking-
sold them?
Chattel slavery.
Gotta
and
be the
Middle
moderator
Passage
and deal with
are
all the
responsibility
bullshit.
of
Great.
European and European Americans.
What the? There were black people who owned slaves here in this country.
No, there were no,
Yes, there were.
no black people that don't say now.
So
they,
you're really saying that a white Christian is different than a black Christian.
Yes, I mean, Christianity does not occur
Fucking- I can't believe he just said that. Holy shit. This is like discrimination.
in a cultural vacuum.
Oh my
all
god.
Christian expressions are cultural expressions of Christianity. There's no such thing as
Yes,
an
black
absolute
Christianity is different from white
value-neutral,
Christianity.
Christianity.
Nice way to
That is
segregate
a
it even
myth.
more, dude.
If you find a
That's
cult,
amazing.
If these race baiters only knew the actual
Yeah,
fact,
it's like,
I
what
blame the media for a
the
lot of it.
fuck?
For instance, in 2020, Americans were polled as to how many unarmed black men they thought were killed by American police every year. When they polled these people, people that described themselves as liberals said that it was somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000. People that said they were very liberal thought it was more than 10,000. More than 10,000. That's crazy, right? Well, the actual number is 10. 10 people. And I know conservatives go on all the time about, oh, the media this, the media that, but I'm going to have to join in on it for this one because it is true. If the media covered the mandate,
Wait, okay, hold on.
Fine,
Let's go back to this.
if these race baiters only knew the actual fact, I blame the media for a lot of it. For instance, in 2020, Americans were polled as to how many unarmed black men they thought were killed by American police every year. When they polled these people, people that described themselves as liberals.
You want to apologize? I don't know.
People that
it just looks like you're fucking ban evading.
More than 10,000. More than 10,000. That's crazy, right? Well, the actual number is 10. 10 people. And I know conservatives go on all the time about, oh, the media this, the media that, but I'm going to have to join in on it for this one because it is true. If the media covered the shootings of whites with as much monomaniacal intensity as they do
as they did with the
blacks,
race
the
stuff,
country would
right?
think
As
that we're living
blacks
through an
or
epidemic
people
of
of color,
racial
right?
bias by police officers towards white people. The perception that people have is due to exclusively the fact that the media will only cover the shootings of blacks. Do we want there to be any shootings of any civilians at all, unarmed civilians?
Obviously
No,
not.
that's
But the media
absolutely not.
obviously always
Ideally, there would be none.
portray, for some
Given
reason,
the violent crime
right,
rate
people
in
of color,
America at the
whether
moment,
it's blacks,
which is at a magnitude
fucking
higher
Asians,
than anything
right?
else we've seen in the modern West. The fact of the matter
right,
is that police officers in
even
America more and
the
more
illegal
frequently
immigrants,
encounter armed,
they're even
violent,
putting
and
them up,
resisting
right?
suspects.
So it's
George
like
Floyd. Looking at the stats
it's a little
in
weird.
2021, for example, there was 6
They barely do any
unarmed
white people
black
for some
men
reason, right?
killed by police officers, and that's allegedly unarmed. And the reason I say allegedly is because the stats
Like, if
come
you
from the
actually want to
Washington
find
Post
white people,
database,
you actually
which
have
is
to
a
like
very, very
research
liberal organization
articles
in how
to
they
find those
define the word
people.
unarmed.
It's like, what
Often
the fuck?
unarmed doesn't mean that they weren't trying to
But
harm
yeah,
the police
mainstream
officer, grab
media,
their
like
gun or
national
anything else. It's just that
television
they had
and
no weapon.
stuff like that,
They could have still
they
been
don't
trying to
do
kill
that
the
shit
police
for some
When it
reason.
comes
It's
to
weird.
blacks getting killed in America,
Take the
the
MAGA
real
hat
way
off.
that they're
Why?
getting killed in America,
I
and the
like the
media
hat.
won't tell you this, is they get
I'm
killed
not
by
bald.
homicide. Homicide at the hands of
I'm
other
not bald like a
black
lot of
people
fucking streamers are.
in these utterly insane drive-by shootings. Over
Sorry,
10,000
that was a lot.
blacks
That was
were
a
killed.
jab at other
And I have the stats
streamers.
here of 2021 and 2022, but in 2021, over 10,000 blacks were killed
You bring
by
shame to
other
us? Or shame?
blacks.
Who
And
the
again,
fuck are you
these
even talking
insane
about?
types of
Shame.
shootings versus 6 unarmed black people by the police. 10,000 of them were killed by their own people. Not by white people.
Not true,
Not by
MAGA.
cops.
What?
By other
MAGA is
blacks.
just a
And yet we've
fucking
become
ideology,
committed
brother.
to
You need
this
to calm down.
frenzied narrative, ubiquitous racist that turns our eyes away from the breakdown of the inner city, right? We talk about fatherless homes and all this stuff. We never address the problem. We just blame white people. We blame the police. We blame Western culture. But we don't look at the underlying problem, which is
or
big
ask
part
for
is
reparations
homes,
for somehow
American
that's
black
going to
culture,
make the difference.
because the media doesn't want to tackle this. Blacks are the ones out there killing blacks, not the cops, not other white people.
Yeah, it's literally same race violence.
If you will allow me, at the end of this clip, to go on a little bit of a George Floyd rant, I will take that opportunity. Let's get into it.
Yeah, just look at all the gangs that fucking shoot at each other.
With the criminal record.
Sure.
Were you surprised when the blacks blamed the cops?
I hate to say it,
rather
but
than
it's
blame
the usual
unemployed drug addict
suspects.
for his death? Were you surprised when the blacks did that?
Do you believe? No, I don't see a problem with it. I'm answering your question first. Okay.
Yeah, were you surprised when
Wait, hold
the
on really
blacks
quickly.
pretended that it was the cops' problem instead of the cops' fault that George Floyd is dead. When George Floyd was an unemployed drug addict.
I mean, look,
So
both
do you
parties are at
surprised that the
fault.
blacks reacted to that?
Well, do you think that an unemployed drug addict, do you think that because he was unemployed and addicted to drugs, which I'm not even sure he was addicted to drugs, but whatever, but do you think
What do you
because
mean? He
unemployed-
was. He also held a fucking gun at a pregnant woman too. I mean, fucking.
Let's assume addicted to drugs, that
I'm
somehow
fucking
in and of
brandishing that
itself
shit.
resulted in the compression on his neck that denied his brain
You
oxygen?
didn't answer my question.
I am answering it.
No, I asked you a question. I asked you, were you surprised at the reaction of the blacks when the unemployed drug addict with the criminal record
Jeez. Man, you really hate yourself in some ways, but it's sure. So no, I'm not surprised.
Were you surprised that the blacks blamed the cop and not the addict?
I am not surprised that the cops blame that the black people, or not just black people, obviously a jury of his peers found it who were not black. Obviously coroners were not black in this scenario. I'm not surprised that the vast majority of sane people were able to recognize that the suppression on his neck resulted in a lack of oxygen, which ultimately caused his death. Both an independent coroner and the other
See
coroner both
that? I
found
don't
this to be
think that.
true. So no, I would not be surprised that people.
I mean,
who were
it could have
access the
added to his
actual
death,
information
but I don't think
released
it
by
was
the
like the
coroner were
the
able
nail
to
in the
identify
coffin.
that this
I mean, the
cop's
dude was
action by putting
drugged
his
out
knee on
already.
his neck for that amount of time
And then
resulted in his
right,
death.
you
So
had
no, there's no
Chauvin
surprise
just
at all.
fucking
You're
right.
saying no
He should have.
judging. I'm not
Chauvin
surprised
honestly
that
should have
the
just let
blacks
him up so that he can
blaming
OD on
the
himself.
cops rather than unemployed
That's what I
drug addict with
think.
the record, criminal record.
If that's what you took from that, but let me ask you this: do you blame the coroner?
I want to be clear.
But yeah, that didn't
I answered the
happen.
question
Instead,
very
Chauvin,
directly.
Chauvin stood
I'm not surprised
stood
at the
above him
reaction
with
of the
his knee
blacks.
on
I
him.
think I answered it with some additional information.
But I didn't hear yes
Okay,
or no.
I'm sorry. I'll say it one more time. Let me fully answer.
I mean, he could
No,
still
I'm
get
not
pardoned.
surprised.
Weren't they
Hold on.
talking
No,
about
I'm
it?
not surprised.
All right,
No, I got you. No, I'm not surprised, especially considering the information from the coroner clearly demonstrated that the suppression on his neck was caused by the officer, which resulted in his death. Do you think that a person being unemployed and and addicted to drugs would somehow result in compression in their neck, denying their brain oxygen?
I think that he get what he deserved. He doesn't care about his own life.
Got him.
If he had cared about his own life, he would not have been a drug addict and a criminal record.
So do you believe because
Am I right about that?
I totally
First of
agree.
all,
Yes, I do agree. I think that a person who values their life would probably not be addicted to drugs or have criminal records.
Exactly.
But would
if
you
his
say
knee wasn't on the neck?
Would you? Okay. Did the knee where the knee was placed?
Near the
did
neck, but not on the neck.
Sure. Where it was placed? Did it
Yeah,
result
it was
in
on
the,
his
in the
chest.
cessation of
Right.
oxygen,
It was
of required
basically
oxygen to his
No.
brain that resulted. So you disagree with the coroner?
The shoulder, the trap.
Okay. So did you
area.
go to medical school? Where'd you get this
I
information?
went to common sense school.
Oh, so common sense says that a coroner would just lie and make up that compression
No,
on the
the
neck.
people around him lied and made it up.
I
Because of time.
mean, what? Just look at the
You're
video.
right. You're right. I
Because
didn't
time
either.
is going by really fast here.
You're right.
You said it's been written here that.
I mean,
you
the
said
video
you
just shows
didn't want to
Chauvin
pick
on
up
top of
food
him,
because
obviously.
you would have to
And it
drive
shows
through
him
wealthy neighborhoods.
speaking. Right?
And you
It
thought
shows
the cop was
literally
going to pull
him
you
speak.
over.
Right?
He said if I
He's like, "Oh, I can't
could
breathe. I
put
can't
on
breathe."
white skin
He
for 30
seems to be
minutes
talking and
while
breathing
I
fine, but
go
he's like,
make
"Oh, I can't
food
breathe. I can't breathe." That's
run,
probably because
make
he's
food
all
run,
fucking
I would do it.
right.
and I
His
wouldn't
his
feel nervous
adrenaline's
anymore.
all
This is
shot
sure.
up, and then
For
he
sure.
has
Why would
drugs
you
in
say
his
something like
system.
Well, I happen to live in a pretty nice neighborhood. It's like super duper predominantly white. It's
You
on-
say you live in a neighborhood like that?
Sure, it's on the rich side of town, and I think in the middle of all of the unrest, I would say the trauma caused by the George Floyd situation.
You were
is
traumatized by that?
absolutely.
What?
How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
And you
Oh, yeah, I'm with him on that. 37 and you're traumatized by that? I'm sorry, what?
George Floyd thing?
For sure.
What?
Do you not? Well, I know you're not a psychologist,
What
so
the-
yeah, I get it. I know you probably
What
struggle with
the-
psychology, but sure. So I would say.
How
that
is he? Yeah, I want to know how
you
he's
grown or you a
traumatized by
baby?
this.
I think I'm a pretty grown man.
How you gonna be traumatized by something like that?
Do you think grown men can't be traumatized?
No. They
That's,
can
that's
if
not
they're
what
in a
he
fallen
asked.
state,
That's
but-
not what he
you have to be in a
said.
fallen
He
state.
said,
Well,
"How
okay,
can you be
explain
Yeah,
why.
traumatized
so what
by
it was is
that
I live in a
event
pretty rich neighborhood, and
specifically?"
ultimately I recognize that, like, I saw the circumstances around not just George Floyd, but then the surrounding events as well, and all of the other people, Ahmaud Arbery, and so on and so forth, and the lack of accountability for cops gave me pause to consider the fact that if I am driving, at the time I was driving a much
So
worse car
basically,
than I
he
am
took
now,
all of
and I
the
felt somewhat
unfortunate
uncomfortable with the
cases,
idea
right?
that,
He
man,
basically
me in
took
this
the
car, in this
outlier
neighborhood,
cases and
will
was
stick
like,
out like a
"Oh,
like
now I'm
a sore thumb."
afraid.
And I could imagine
What the
police
fuck, dude?
officers wanting to give me specific attention, being a black man in this neighborhood in this car, and so that gave me a little bit of pause and made me feel
Brother,
somewhat
I hate to say
a
this,
tinge of
but most
trepidation.
cops aren't
Ultimately,
like
I would go get the food, but I think that sort of thing. I'm a very risk-averse person,
Amazing.
and I would say
so
that
why
made
don't
me
you move out
nervous.
of your little rich white neighborhood?
Why should I?
Are you afraid of the whites?
No, I'm not afraid of the whites. What is? I'm sorry.
I'm not
I don't know how
afraid
you got
of
that
the
from
You've been
what I said.
traumatized.
Yeah, but
think it's
he
trauma
did
How do
say
you
disappear if I was in a
travel
black
around
neighborhood?
in your white neighborhood
I drive.
knowing that the cops may drive up behind you? What you doing over here, boss?
There was
I've
what was
adjusted
it,
and I drive around
yesterday
with faith in God that I will be protected,
when
and that's how I live my
what-
life.
that
Amazing.
James
This guy brought up
Klug guy
George Floyd. Now,
interviewed those two
We have
women.
enough evidence
Those
now,
two
years
black
later,
women.
to know
Holy
that
shit.
it was the fentanyl in the
They
system that probably
act the
utterly
same
killed
way
him.
as that guy.
The doctor was just, if you watch the Candace Owens documentary, the doctor just didn't want to commit career suicide and say that. He died because he had a lethal dose of a dangerous narcotic into his system. The guy was not a nice guy. He was a career criminal who had done a lot of jail time multiple times.
Correct.
If he had not taken those drugs and resisted arrest, when he said, "Oh, I can't breathe," he wasn't on the ground when he started saying that. He was standing up, fully
Correct.
resisting arrest. And he resisted arrest high on fentanyl with a lethal dose of fentanyl in his body, frantically for several minutes. Had he have not taken the fentanyl, most likely he'd be alive today. There was zero
Yeah,
evidence.
literally. If he
Zero
didn't take the
evidence.
fentanyl, he'd be fine.
Not even a hint of evidence that Chauvin, the cop, the police officer who went to jail for the
He
killing of
didn't
George
take
Floyd,
the
would have
drugs,
acted
he'd be
any
fine.
differently had George Floyd have been white. No evidence. There is no evidence that police are more likely to kill an unarmed black suspect than a white suspect. More unarmed white suspects are killed each year by police than unarmed black suspects. So when you examine the statistical likelihood of that arrest, that's what you have to look at. The likelihood that the arrest
Who was
of
that
an
one
unarmed black
professor?
suspect versus
He was from
the
Harvard.
statistical
Remember that
likelihood
one
that the
professor
arrest
from
of a white
Harvard that
suspect
was
could turn
that
fatal.
did that study, and he
You're
had to
going
like
to find, if you look at
redo.
the
He had to
statistics and the
redo the
numbers, that
study because
they're
he
about the
thought the
same.
numbers didn't make
Statistically,
sense, so he
no
redid it,
difference.
and it
Also,
came
you'll
out
find that
the same way
categories of
again.
unarmed suspect, again, like I mentioned
And then
earlier,
he-
is very
the-
misleading. The racial element of the George
I
Floyd
guess his,
saga was a whole fabrication. It was not biased.
The
That was
the
left's
faculty he was
blanket
talking to didn't
assumption,
want him
because
to
they like
release the
play
study.
victim, and they like to base everything
It was like, oh
on
yeah,
race
nah,
or gender,
and then he
and they
released
apply
it,
this
and
to
then he
police
got a lot of
killings
flack for it,
all the
and then
time.
he had to get
If a
like
black man is killed by the cops,
a
no matter what the
police
circumstances,
bodyguard
it must
because
be a racist act.
well,
George
of all the
Floyd
shit.
is not somebody that we should be celebrating. This to me is clear cut. Whether you believe he was the victim of a murder or manslaughter, or it was his own choice, or some combination of those circumstances, that doesn't matter. The fact remains that this is a disgrace and an embarrassment to America to have this man's face and likeliness plastered everywhere. It is gross to give this man today, and even then, an elaborate celebration. It was gross to give him an elaborate funeral, like a hero.
Well, I mean, they keep doing that
casket.
memorial
the man's
for him.
funeral had like weeping
And those are just the
dignitaries from across the
activists
country.
doing
The
it.
mayor of Minneapolis, I remember, broke down into it. Couldn't contain himself. It's insane. We spent a year mourning the death of one drug addict career
Yeah, they
criminal
did it for
who
5
beat up
years in a
pregnant lady
row,
to steal a
apparently.
buck from them. When thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people are killed every year, good people. Most of the people, I would say, that are killed every year.
It was the same way
far
with
more
the Rodney
deserving
King
of people's
stuff.
tears than George
Right,
Floyd
back in
was. And this
19
is the
right, the
case
Rodney
no matter
King
how
riots.
he died. The manner of his death does not change this. This is a man who preyed on the members of his community. He was a violent man, a career criminal, a predator. George Floyd should be alive today, but he should be alive because he never got out of prison for invading that woman's home, put a gun to her stomach, and robbed her.
Oh, yeah,
while another
this is the
man
one
in
I was
George
talking.
Floyd's
Yeah.
group pistol whipped her in the process.
Oh
Think
yeah,
about
that's right. He pistol whipped
this is
her
a man that
too.
we
Yeah,
had a golden
Jesus.
casket for. This wasn't a youthful mistake, right? When he died, he was 33 years old, a hardened criminal who had committed acts of barbaric cruelty to others. Again, I think it's a disgrace that there's murals of him, that there's streets named after him. You have to ask yourself when it comes to George, would you want your children to grow up in a world
I mean, that's
where
what
there's
these
a
people
violent
want,
criminal
right?
like George Floyd
That's what
around
they
them,
chose.
who victimizes women, who steals and robs his neighbors? Why are we celebrating this man? To this day, there's still murals of him in America. None of us
Correct.
should want our kids to grow up like George Floyd.
And right, and you have
Hope you all enjoyed this
murals
video.
of
If you
like
did, smash that thumbs
right
up button,
Kobe
consider subscribing
Bryant
to the
and
channel,
like some
help
of
it grow,
these other
and I'll catch you
people
all in the
getting
next video. Peace out.
tagged up and vandalized and shit. Yeah, I mean they already took down a bunch of statues and shit. America, right, old historic statues because we don't like these because it brings back our old history that nobody likes. Oh yeah, you mean the old history that makes sure that to tell people, hey, yeah, don't do this shit again. Yeah, that history. Or like trying to erase presidential monuments and statues and shit. Yeah, that shit. Yeah, whatever. Well, there you have it. Jesse Lee Peterson and I mean this is what all race baiters do, right? Ilhan Omar does this shit. AOC does this shit. Fucking Cory Booker was doing this shit too. Right, so all these fucking politicians do it. Base conservative if you want to take a look.